Okay, I've been working like 3 jobs. Probably why I never see.
All right, welcome back to Building a Fighter. My name is Dr. Dustyn Schoen, sports chiropractor in Scottsdale, Arizona, and strength coach. With me today, I have Dustyn Azure. He is one of my close friends, but also the head coach at Eastern Oregon University. One of the brightest coaches that I've been around as far as creating a system for your team and building a program and really a culture. And I want to pick his brain a little bit about talking about how do you build a program, how did you build your culture, and everything associated with developing a program from the ground up, because I'm sure he'll get into it, but he's the first coach ever at the university he's at right now. He started the program, and not many times I get to meet people that legitimately, everybody's like, oh, I started from the ground up. You've legitimately started from the ground up, and I think it's a cool story. So outside of that, tell everybody a little bit about yourself.
Awesome. Thanks for having me on. This is awesome to be in here. Dustyn Azure, as Austin said, grew up in Poplar, Montana, small town, northeast Montana, little reservation town, about 800, 900 people. Hasn't grown much since I left, but grew up. Started wrestling about 5 years old. Just kind of saw it on something in kindergarten, popped up one day, like every other little kid sees it, and let's go wrestle. And I was pretty rambunctious anyway, so let's go do it. So we tried it out. Coming from not a background of wrestling either. My dad never wrestled, played basketball, so they didn't know what to expect, but they fell in love quick. Yeah. And just like anyone else who wrestles and been with it this long, you know how it is. Once you get the itch, it sticks with you for life.
It also turned out you're pretty good, too.
Yeah.
That helps.
Yeah, winning and having a little bit of success, that helps. It's fun to win. Coming from a town that didn't wrestle too much, it's fun to get out there and win. Everyone there is basketball players and runners, and they had success, but it was good to have success as an individual. I think that helped me stand out and keep me on a good path as a kid, too.
Okay, nice. And then from growing up through Poplar, and then where'd you go to college?
I went to school at Montana State University in Northern.
Heck yeah. Tell me a little bit about that, because that's Naia, correct?
Yep,
awesome.
Naia. It was a powerhouse program during the time that I was looking at colleges. They won national tournament 2 years in a row before I got there. It kind of popped under the radar. I went to a wrestling camp there, and the coach pulled me aside during, just like in between a session, and asked if I wouldn't mind wrestling with some of his college guys. And he actually thought that I was a senior and done wrestling and just hanging out at his camp. And so I went in there and I did pretty dang well, beating some of his guys that were at the national tournament the year before, just hanging right in there with quite a few of them. And he pulled me aside and asked me if I wouldn't mind wrestling for him that year. I was like, I got to finish up high school first. So that's where our conversation kind of started with that coach. And his name's David Ray, Hall of Fame coach and great guy. But learned a lot from him throughout that time, that process. Coming in, it was tough. I redshirted as a freshman. Had a pretty successful freshman year. Placed at, I think, all the tournaments we competed at that year. Coming in as a true freshman, or a redshirt freshman. I think I was coming in top 10 ranked as a freshman. Ended up All-American as a freshman, took 4th place. Ended up best freshman in the nation for all divisions. Not the best, but I was top.
Say it like it's no big deal. You say it like that's pretty damn cool.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. Looking back, at the time you're kind of I want to be the best.
For sure. Yeah.
But it was cool. I mean, he definitely treated us like we are top dogs and took us to the biggest tournaments there are. The Vegas tournament, the Midlands. We'd go wrestle D1 schools all the time, from Wyoming to Oregon to wherever we're at. He wasn't afraid to compete against anybody, and that carried on with me. It doesn't matter who you are. Let's go wrestle.
100%. There's two people on that mat. You can figure out real quick who's better.
Yep.
Right. All you got to do is wrestle.
Yeah.
But if you're afraid to step on the mat, that's the problem.
Exactly.
Well, it's cool to see, as you've transitioned into a coach, I've noticed, because I've been working, how we know each other outside of this is, I've been doing strength and conditioning for EOU this is going on our 4th year, for the wrestling team. And we've developed a pretty good relationship, but I've noticed through every year, you keep getting harder and harder competitions.
Yeah.
And there's a reason behind it, and I know there's a reason behind it. It's because your guys are good enough to compete, and you want to see them try to compete.
Yeah.
But how have you kind of like spinning it into being a coach? How have you developed that type of culture? Like you said, Coach Ray, right?
Yeah, Coach Ray.
Coach Ray developed. Like you said, he treated you guys like you were badasses, essentially.
Yeah.
You treat your guys like they're badasses too. How do you develop that culture and get your guys to buy into, hey, even though I'm not, they're going to wrestle Iowa, for example.
Yeah.
Even though I'm not wrestling Iowa, I can still beat that guy.
Yeah. I think just the hard work, hard work creates confidence.
Yep.
If you're working hard and you believe in what you're doing, that confidence is going to come. Confidence, and that's huge with anything with individual sports. I mean, in life, really, you got to have confidence when you're stepping into something. Otherwise, you can tell.
Yeah. All right, sorry everybody. Had a urgent phone call I had to hop into, but we are back and we're talking about Dustyn giving his athletes the confidence to compete against the D1 programs that he goes and tests and challenges his athletes with. So how do you get those guys to buy in to, hey, this guy might be the starter for Iowa, but we have just as good of an opportunity as they do to go win this match?
Any given day, right?
100%.
Yes,
I agree.
Yeah. Get out there, just compete your best. Really, get out there and have fun with it. We've been doing this our whole lives. Get out there, step on the mat, put your toe on the line, and get ready to battle. A big thing that helped me, my dad actually talked me into doing this, and it helped a lot, was just turn it into a fight.
Yeah. If you can make it ugly, anybody can win.
Make it ugly, stay in position, make it ugly, and have fun with it.
Mm-hmm.
You're either gonna get them out of get in their head, get them out of their game plan, or you're gonna start overpowering them because not everyone likes to wrestle physical.
Yep, and that is, so I'm similar. I wrestled D3 going through, and we wrestled against the UNI guys and a lot of D1 programs basically the whole time I was in college. And that is one thing I noticed against the D1 guys that I went out and wrestled against and beat is if I could make them work a little bit harder, it's almost like they stepped on the mat underestimating me. Because, I was just a D3 kid. They don't know what I did in high school, and I chose D3 because I also wanted to have a little fun too, and they had a pre-chiro program.
Yeah.
They didn't know that I had the skills of the other stuff to back up everything. And it's almost like I had an edge stepping on because I could break them.
Yep.
They had no idea I could break them, but I could break them, and they thought they were just going to walk through it. And I'm like, well, fuck y'all. Let's rip. And that's how a lot of like my teammates, that's how they go beat the D1 kids. That's how I've seen your kids at Reno TOC. Mm-hmm. That's how it's, or is it Reno TOC or Vegas? Yeah, okay. Yep. That's how I've seen you guys, like Hunter Sparks.
Yeah.
Going out there last year. He was it last year or 2 years ago that he balled out there?
Sparks, was it? No, he did wrestle in it last year.
Okay.
Sparks actually, he was at 33 the first year he was with
That's
us.
what it was.
And then that's what the decision
and he was
was
up
made.
a weight class.
Yeah.
And he still did okay.
Yeah.
Right? He still did okay and won some matches.
Yeah.
And Naia did really well out there too, right?
No, we did well. We actually just had our first placer there last year.
Woohoo!
Yeah, it was Kyle Knutson.
Yes, it was.
184-pounder, and he ended up coming in taking 7th.
Thank you.
He was actually his 5th, I believe. Yeah, 5th.
And going out there and doing very well in a tournament that a lot of people didn't give him a lot of credit that he was going to go place in.
Yeah.
And he just he's a really good one at he can drag people into team waters too. That's why I like watching Kyle.
Talking about turning things dirty, Kyle can turn things into a dirty match, and he'll get out there and bang with the best of them. And
weirdly strong.
Yeah.
Almost like farm strength.
Exactly. In weird positions, just.
Mm-hmm. But with those guys and kind of building off that, how do you guys get to buy in, not just beating those programs, but something that I think is unique about EOU is you guys have a completely sober season from the day they step onto campus all the way through basically the end of wrestling season, maybe the whole year. I don't know. Is it the whole year or is it
it's
just...
throughout wrestling seasons. What what's the word I'm looking for there? Cut that part out, but
the
monitor them, I guess.
Yeah, the monitoring of are they staying sober? Everything. No, and as somebody that part of the reason why I decided to go D3 is that I could also have fun as well. Looking back, shouldn't have done it. I should have focused because you only have 4, maybe 5 years if you have COVID year to go out there and accomplish your goals for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
That's a unique thing that EOU brings to the table that you get guys to buy into immediately. Mm-hmm. How'd you do that? Because I know if you would have said that to me, I probably would have laughed unless you said it in the perfect way.
Yeah. I think it's just getting them to believe that we're a small school. You know, that's another thing is that we come from a small community where we're like a fishbowl. Everyone's looking in. You can see us from anywhere. We know everybody around the town. You know, it's only a town of 15,000, but with those 15,000 is support. You know, they love the program. They love EOU. And so we don't want to tarnish that. So we're going out, we're just trying to be respectful and try to be the best that we can be. And that's hard to do when you're out partying and drinking and doing things you're not supposed to do. And I'm guilty of it myself, you know, growing up, coming through college, you know, I definitely made tons of mistakes. And I know if that was put on me, I would have followed along and probably done even better.
Yeah,
you know?
100%. And that's like when I heard you say it for the first time, I'm like, I've never even heard about that, first of all. Like, that's just what, like, I went to school in Wisconsin, dude.
Yeah.
Like, that's all you do in Wisconsin is drink. Like, it's drink and eat cheese. That's
Yeah.
all the state.
Yeah.
But, like, for the first time you told me that, I'm like, that's such a cool concept because you're right. Like, one of the biggest, I guess, detractors of athletic performance is alcohol.
Yeah.
Alcohol itself, it causes you to sleep worse. It causes you to recover worse. It causes you to essentially, like, you're going to stay up later because you're going to drink at night, so you're not actually sleeping in the first place. You can't hit your REM cycle as well. I can list 20, 30 different things that alcohol does to you, yet every college athlete wants to go do it.
Yeah.
Are you serious or are you not? And that's what I've noticed with your guys is, like, I just went up to LeGrand for the first time recently. And what I noticed about the guys on the team is it's a no bullshit. Mm-hmm. Like, even the guys that are 21, 22, it's no bullshit. If they see somebody not messing around, like, I think two guys were like 3 minutes late. 3 minutes late, and Kyle and Jackson were on them. That's not the culture that we have here. You show up on time, you're ready to go when we ask you to be, and that's how we breed success. Yeah. And that's a really cool thing. And do you have any, like, steps for people trying to, I guess, build a culture at home or in their gym or if they're a new coach? How do you start that from the ground up?
I think it's just accountability.
Okay.
You know, be honest with yourself. If you can look yourself in the mirror and say, I'm doing this step, this step, this step to reach my goal, then you're on the right pace to do it. But if you're not, it's hard to lie to yourself. I mean, you can lie to yourself, I guess.
But that's the whole thing about wrestling, because, like, if you lie to yourself, typically you get figured out real quick. Like, I've been there where I lied to myself before, and I got figured out real quick because I did not win a match that I should have won because I wasn't doing the right things. Yeah. And that's why I love our sport. It's because it's you and another person. You figured out, are you prepared, yes or no?
Yeah, and you either fix it or it's going to keep on happening.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then, so with the accountability, how do you get your captains to have enough? Because captains is just a word, right? But how do you get your leaders to be able to have enough authority to do that, right? Like, because that's another hard part. It can't just come from the coaches.
Yeah.
There's a difference between an authoritarian state and it all being from the coach, and there actually being, like, peer accountability. And that is the thing I've noticed with EOU when I went up there is there's a lot of peer accountability. Mm-hmm. That's really hard. And how do you give those guys the leverage and the free reign to really be in charge of the program at the peer level?
Yeah, I think recruiting is a big part of it. Okay. You know, bringing in the right student athlete that's going to fit your program. But I think the biggest part of it is I'm not the one wrestling. You know, they're the ones out there. They're the ones stepping on the line. If they can go out there and get embarrassed every match if they want, or they can go out there and do something about it and be honest with themselves every day. And if they're not doing that, it's going to show. I'll call them out on it, of course. I'm not going to just sit back and let it keep happening. But they got to be able to take responsibility for themselves, because I'm not going to be the one that's going to win a national title for them. Our assistant coaches aren't going to be the one. It's all on them. And you take care of yourself, you're going to take care of the team. It's something that we always preach. And if that's not happening, you know, we're going to start seeing things fall. And, you know, we've finally built it to where we're continuing to see growth. And if we're not seeing growth, there's something going wrong. And we need to continue fixing things and adjusting each year, and as do they. Yeah. So well, it's just an equation. Right? Yeah. It's, at the end of the day, like I know everybody hates math, but it is just math. Yeah. Right? It's all right. I added this variable in. Does this variable work? Yes or no?
If it works, you keep it. If it doesn't, you throw it away and you try to add a new variable in.
Yeah.
And you try to just consistently, like my clinic, on the clinic wall has a big old thing that says better every day. Like it is a cliche and everything, and you technically can't get better every single day, but you try to, right? And you always want to try to, and it's all just playing with the variables back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
And another thing you said that I think a lot of coaches, because this isn't just for college wrestling coaches, this is for the people that own a gym, this is for the people that have a fight team. It's recruiting in and of itself isn't just for college sports. Mm-hmm. It's who you let onto your team. It's how do you keep the people that you want there and try to get rid of the people that are negative energy.
Yeah. Like
something that's big in college sports, but also big on some of the fight teams that have been around, is sometimes there's energy vampires. You gotta get rid of them. Like you can try to change them, but if you try to change them so many times and you can't change them, do you really want that energy suck on your team towards dragging 4 or 5 other people down that might be getting out of the way?
Yeah.
Have you had to deal with that in the past? Is there a good way that you found to, I guess, relay that message of, hey, get on the boat or get the fuck off?
Yeah. Yep. More than I would. More than I'd like to.
Yeah, fair.
It happens, yeah.
Yeah.
And a big part of it is just, again, you got to be honest with yourself. Do you want this person to be part of the team? They can be the best wrestler on your team, on your program, but if they're not doing the right things and you can see them dragging other people down, it's going to affect everybody.
Yep.
You can't build a team off just one person.
Yeah.
And if like we said, if that person's the best wrestler, but if he's out partying every weekend, there's people that can do that.
Yeah.
I know.
They're
good too.
Yeah. Yeah. I had a team full of them.
Yeah. Same here. And there's some people that can get out there and they can just be hammers and be able to flip that switch. Yep. But it's far and few in between, especially nowadays how good wrestlers are getting. Not just wrestling, every sport, how much further along they're developed than when I was growing up.
Right. Yeah. And it's hard too, because like you do have those guys and it's hard to explain that to your team. Right? Like, I remember we had a kid on my college team that we had this exact situation. He's a party animal. He was a wrestler and a rugby player. Mm-hmm. And he was one of those athletes that was legitimately good enough to do both. Like, he was the best player on the mat he was the best wrestler on the mat and the best player on the pitch every single time he was out there. But all he wanted to do was drink. He was at the bars 6 days a week. And it's a hard conversation that I think my coaches did a good job of explaining to the team, but also being like, hey, well, we know he's going to go win matches. That's fine. That's awesome. But that's not what we do here. Mm-hmm. We win matches the right way, not we just win matches to win matches. And that's the difference. And that's a cool thing to see when a culture, like when you start to like turn the actual steering wheel on the boat and it starts going back the right way and you get out of the rapids a little bit, everybody's stress levels start to get a little bit better and everybody starts to wrestle a little bit better. Everybody starts to compete a little bit better. That's when you hit win streaks. Yeah. But you're right. A team isn't built on one athlete. A team is built on a culture. And it's a cool thing to see when done correctly. Yeah. Now, at NAIA, tell me a little bit, or I know about it, but tell everybody a little bit more about the structure. Because one of the cool things I think about NAIA is you guys are allowed to have 2 people go to the national tournament the same weight. Yeah. So it's cool because you personally, you get to have 2 guys in the room, legitimately, that could be first and second in the entire country. Yep. So
there's 10 weight classes. Yep. We are able to add 2 people on to the roster, 2 extras. They can be at any weight class. I mean, we can even just pile up at the bottom if we wanted to and go from 25 to 57, 65. So and get 6 weight classes and double up all the way to there if we wanted. But we try to get it spread across. And so being able to add those 2 on are awesome. So essentially, like you're saying, we can have 1 and 2 ranked guys in the nation at the weight class. That'd be awesome if we can eventually get to that point. That's one of my goals. It was something that we were able to do when I was in college. We've had guys wrestle that were the same weight classes in the national finals against each other. So
that's sick.
Yeah, it's good and bad. I mean, it kind of feel bad for them because you can't really cheer for them,
right?
But you're happy for them, both of them.
But it's cool because, like, if you're on your team, you're friends with both, right?
Yeah.
So it's cool. Like, it sucks somebody has to win, but it's really cool that I bet you they were friends too, most likely, right? Yep. Like, so it's cool that they could have that moment where, unfortunately, somebody's got to win, but they worked with each other to get to that level.
Mm-hmm.
And it's something, has that happened many times? I don't think so.
Well, more than you think in any eye,
Really?
yeah.
Okay.
Grandview's actually done a really good job with their
That makes
powerhouse
sense.
program, and they've had that happen quite a few times.
I'll say it. Dustyn has to stay partial, but the whole state smells like pig shit. I can't stand Iowa. Even though Grandview is an amazing program, but
Yeah.
I'm just not an Iowa fan.
Yeah.
But that being said, you just had your first national champ.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about that. Like, how cool of an experience, what was that going from somebody that transferred in and was at 33, like you said, we're talking about Hunter Sparks, who he started at 33, and you got him to buy into, hey, I think we could win a natty if you drop down to 25. How was that?
The conversation with him? Or
Conversation, just everything, the whole thing.
So I guess we started off the year, Cammy did want to be 33. We kind of toyed around with the idea of 25 a little bit, threw it at him jokingly, but not jokingly. We just felt that he was a little bit oversized at 33.
Gotcha.
We're trying to do it the right way to make it his decision. And it came down to, we wanted to see how he was going to do at the Reno tournament. He wrestled against some 33-pounders, and they're bigger than Sparks, and that was the thing. He was just getting overpowered. He wasn't getting out wrestled. They're just a little bit bigger than him, and that comes to play when you're wrestling. So that was kind of the deciding factor. Is the Reno tournament his first year with us, not freshman year.
Well, that's really cool because, like, something you highlighted well is, like, you got him to make the decision.
Yeah.
It wasn't you, you convinced him, right? But you got him to be like, hey, this is what I need to do for myself.
Yeah.
How'd you do that?
Well, it comes down to what we talked about earlier.
Yeah.
Like, it's your choice.
Yep.
Hey, we can go
You're
in
the one on the mat.
and we can go in and we can be an All-American, but is that really your goal? He could have been an All-American at 33, probably top 3.
Yep.
But national champ, I know that's where you want to be.
Was he beating that Uzbekistani? Yeah, that's who it was, right? That was that year, right?
That year, yeah. Yeah, it was.
Yeah, so the kid that goes out there and wrestles in the Olympics, like, Hunter's a really good wrestler, but that guy's just bigger, right?
Yeah.
And that's what it came down to. But it's cool to see that from 33, trusting you to go to 25, and then this whole last year he was at 25, right?
Yeah, he just decided to stay down there this whole last year.
How did you go about that? Did you go about changing his diet? Did you notice anything like a flip switch? How did he stay down at 25 when he was bigger?
After his first year, I think he was just being hungry.
Okay.
Like, everything flipped around for him. Like, he knew his goal and what his main objective was, to be a national champion. So he turned everything around. His diet, his nutrition, everything was just kind of on point, looking towards being a national champ. So, like we talked about, every day just getting a little bit closer, It's not going to be just one big thing one day that's going to make you a national champ. It's
Right.
going to be all those little things that add up, those little things that you do right throughout a day, and just ending each day with more things that you do right than you do wrong.
Yeah.
And so,
That's like
it's really, yeah. And it's one of those things that's it's simple but not easy, right?
If everybody could do it, everybody would be national champs.
Yeah.
I couldn't do it. I ain't a national champ.
Yeah,
I'm
same here.
happy to admit it. Like, I wasn't dedicated enough to do it. But it's
Yeah.
really cool when you see somebody that does live the lifestyle.
Yeah.
Like, that whole last year, and I want to get into how I program for you guys and our whole experience with the Building a Fighter team program that you do. But me and Hunter would message back and forth through the app, and he'd tell me about an injury here and there. He'd tell me about, he's a thinker. And he'd give me really good questions, but you could tell something switched between the first year to the second year based off the questions I was getting.
Yeah.
Where he's like, all right, if I do this, do you think I need to take a rest on this day?
Yeah.
Or if I do this, is this gonna, if I have I don't honestly remember the injuries, but say a knee, for example. If I have if this exercise is gonna hurt the knee, do I have to wrestle right after, or can I give it a little bit of time? These are the questions I'm getting.
Yeah.
That's high level thinking.
Yeah.
That's what it takes to go from good to great, is to think, and you don't want to overthink, but to actually have those thoughts in your brain of, all right, this is what the elite think like. It's the small things, not the big things, that make the biggest difference.
Yeah.
And that's been pretty damn cool to see. And I think Kyle, so far, what I've experienced of going up there recently, I think Kyle's flipped that switch too now.
Yeah.
And it's cool to see, because I think you're getting another national champion this year.
Yeah. I'm excited to watch Kyle get out there and work too. He's been putting in the work, and they're seeing it. It's one of those things that's not hard. It's right in front of you. You don't have to recreate the wheel. You have a national champ they're actually roommates.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
That's actually rooming with you. You see what work they're putting in, what they're doing, add the questions they're asking, continue doing those type of things. And you hit on a good point with questions. I mean, that's something that helped him get to where he's at. It wasn't just go out there and let it fly and there was a lot of thought that goes into it after practice, struggling in this position, and again, being honest with yourself, why was I struggling in this position? Could we work in this position? Whether it be a single or leg riding or whatever it might be, but let's fix this, because I felt a little hitch there that needs to be fixed.
One of the coolest things you told me, that we said that I was just up there, so we were talking about it up there, but the pressure situation. Mm-hmm. Getting him to not just shoot to shoot. Getting him to have intention behind everything he's doing. And that's actually, as a coach that studied a whole lot of motor development, that was a part of the master's program I went through. It's cool to see when implemented correctly, and that's a hard thing to coach. And the noticeable difference between the first year to the second year, where he was taking the right shots, he wasn't just taking shots. Yeah. That's, personally, I think that's what won him a national championship. The small stuff, yes, but the flip you were able to switch there, where he was taking the right shots at the right times, is what I think put him over the edge.
Be more calculating.
Yes.
He had taken calculated risks. They turned into not being risks, really. They were high percentage shots because he was so close of range. He's so fast. We're talking about just finding range and touching. Once you can just touch a leg, if you can touch it, you can get to the leg and shoot and finish. And so that was something that we worked on a lot. And he definitely showed.
Heck yeah.
He's a kid that only gave up 3 takedowns the whole year, and
8-year-old program, first national champ, and in a powerhouse of a NAIA, where typically 2 schools basically run NAIA every year. Really, it's 1, but recently life has kind of shown themselves as well.
And that's actually the kid who we beat in the semifinals. Yeah. So he revenged his loss in the finals to the kid he beat in the semifinals.
Pretty damn cool to see, dude.
Yeah.
So talking about switching gears, going into we work together on the strength conditioning side.
Yep.
Tell me a little bit about your experience with the Building a Fighter online program, the stuff we've been doing with your team. Tell us, or I guess everybody at home, what that entails and what it's looked like so far in these last 3 years.
Yeah, so it's starting off during COVID, I think, is when we really started talking about it. Is that about when Hunter started working with you?
I think I started working with Hunter 6 months before I started working with the OU. So right around there.
Okay. Yeah. So he was showing me some of his lifts and his programming that you were giving him. I actually did one when I came down for a visit just to hang out with him, and so I enjoyed it.
I remember that. That was at the old clinic.
Yeah. And so I loved it. I was like, oh man, these are so wrestling related. It's body movement that you're doing in wrestling. It's not just your bench or your squat. It's something that's going to help you in a wrestling movement that's going to get you to the next level. And so I reached out to Austin and we started talking about it, figuring out how we're going to program it throughout a season, so there wasn't just one, bench on our squat on Monday, bench on Tuesday.
Curls on Wednesday.
Yeah. And so I love the way that you were able to just calculate it throughout the season for us, prioritize different tournaments, different duels, whatever it might be, tapering down when it came into conference, when it came to nationals, but also just the way it was laid out, simple to find and do as well. You doing it remote, I was a little bit nervous about that. For sure. But doing it over an app.
I was too. At the first year, I was too. Yeah. I was hoping it was going to work, because I knew it's a thing. If you have the right system, it should work. But if you've never tested that system with it, I've done it with individuals all the time, but I hadn't tested it with a full team at that point.
Yeah.
And it worked pretty damn well. I was happy with it. It's been working well.
Yeah. And we've been continuing tweaking too, adding different things in here or there. And I think that's the thing that I love about working with you, is we're able to have a conversation about it and be like, okay, this person needs this, or we need this, we need more condition. They looked a little flat this week, they didn't look quite as strong. Okay, we're going to add these in, take this out. that's the part that I really liked about it as well. It's not just you being stubborn and saying, this is what you have to lift. This is what's good.
Look, I ain't trying to make anybody a power lifter. I ain't trying to make anybody a bodybuilder. We're here to be wrestlers. We're here to be fighters. We're here to do the things that they want to do on the mat. There's so many different ways to go about that. Like I said it on the last podcast that it was Sid, like there's no right answers in strength and conditioning.
Yeah.
Once you get to a certain level, there's definitely wrong answers. Like, there's definitely some wrong answers, but once you get to a certain level of correct, there's just different ways to go about it.
Yeah.
So like if I'm, for example, like if somebody has like a clicky shoulder and bench press isn't their thing, why would I make them bench press when there's so many different ways to go about a horizontal upper body push? Like there's, honestly, I can think of 6 right now that we could just modify that to.
Yeah.
And all it takes is you shooting me or them shooting me a message and saying, oh yeah, this is hurting. Okay, boom. Make a little switch, and then they're good to go from there. You're still getting the benefits of an upper body horizontal push, but it doesn't need to be in a way that is provocative in some way, shape, or form, for whatever reason, to their shoulder.
Yeah.
The other cool part is, like, that also allows me to dive into why is it clicky. Like, honestly, I love when we connect, because I like connecting with coaches, and I like being able to have a good dialogue back and forth, because that's how I think, again, I'm very big on systems and culture. I think that's how you build a successful culture and system from a coaching standpoint.
Yeah. Relationships, right?
It's all about relationships.
Yeah.
But I also love when the athlete messages me, like if me and Kyle are talking back and forth, for example, we've talked about him a bunch, he'll message me back and forth and say, like, oh yeah, this lift isn't working for me. Something's with an elbow or shoulder, whatever. Any random injury that could pop up in a wrestling season. Then I get to start diving into, since I am healthcare, I can't do healthcare from here. Technically, my license is only in Arizona, but I can still give them training that's better for them. So, does it feel like a pop or does it feel like a click? Does it feel like sharp or does it feel like dull? Yeah. And then that can start me in my diagnostic cascade, where something I'd also like to get into in the future is be having a working relationship with the AT you guys work with. Yep. And being like, all right, this is what this person's messaging me on the Building a Fighter app. I'm going to modify their lifts for this, this, and this. What are you guys doing in the training room in order to mitigate this? Because I know I was an athlete, you were an athlete. Nobody wants to go into the AT room. Like, that was like, as a wrestler, that was the place you stayed away from. Yeah. And so I know they're a lot more comfortable talking to me as a strength coach about it, since I wear both hats, as opposed to a healthcare provider that might take them off the mat. Yeah.
And a lot of times they don't even tell me this stuff. You have to tell me this stuff because they don't want to get pulled off the mat, because I'm going to try to...
I think it's because I look like a college kid still, so they're like, oh yeah, he's just one of the homies.
Yeah.
But, like, with the guys, that's one of my favorite things, because it opens up a dialogue and allows me to, like, if Kyle hadn't been messaging me for the last 3 years, I wouldn't have a really good relationship with him, because I don't get up there all the time. But I can honestly say I think me and him have a good relationship, because in season we probably message about something in the program once a week. Yeah. And that allows me to be better at programming for him. That allows me to be better at working with you guys, because I know, like, what a standard upper weight is feeling like right now in that program. Maybe he feels fatigued. Well, if Kyle, the kid that I just said think is going to win a national title next year, is feeling fatigued, what's the backup feel like? Like, well, what is the 84-pounder that he's wrestling with the whole time? What does he feel like? Yeah. I bet you it's probably worse. So then I can take away some volume and take away some of the stuff that might be putting them in the dust that could be making them feel like that. And it all comes from communication.
It does. Yeah. And it's that trust that's built between coach-athlete trust, and you're doing a great job at that when it comes down to getting right back to them.
I try, dude. Yeah. I'm glad to hear that, because I try, and that's one of the biggest, like, that's a tenet of building a fighter. Right?
I think that trip over that you made,
dude, that was so fun.
It's going to even help more, because
I want to do that every
now
year.
They see you.
Honestly, I love LeGrand. I thought it was it reminded me of my college town, just a little bit smaller, but in a good way. Like, my college town, you could do too much dumb shit. It was #1 bars per capita in the country. That was one of the selling points to me. And LeGrand was a really cool town where you can have fun if you want to, but there's also a lot of different places. Like, there's nature. You can go on hikes. We went, and I don't even, what was that place called?
Van Patten Lake.
Van Patten Lake.
Yeah.
We went up to Van Patten Lake. I'll tell everybody at home. Elevation in Oregon, I forgot about it. Down here in Arizona, where we're sea level all the time, not the same hiking. Going up there, like, I went up there, I got about 3/4 of the way up, my knees were hurting, I was breathing heavy. I'm in shape too. It's not like I'm out of shape. I'm like, what the fuck is this? but like being able to hike and do those things, because that's just really good. Like when you're a wrestler, that's really good active recovery. It is, right? Yeah. It doesn't have to be a whole 5-mile hike. You can do a mile up, mile down, and that's a good day for getting our zone 2 in, if you will. But it's a cool place, and I want to get up there more because I like it up there.
Always welcome.
100%, dude. And so outside of that, do you have, like, I like when I get skill coaches on here and I can answer questions. Do you have questions about, like, how to lay out a strength and conditioning program for a season, or anything about the programs that we've given so far, or things you think other coaches should hear about, like, what we do?
Yeah, I think, how do you prioritize? Like, what's your... Because I know we have conditioning in some of them, and then sometimes you're pulling it out, and then sometimes you're putting it in. Like, how do you prioritize that throughout a week? And then knowing the competition coming up, like, how do you go about doing that?
So my biggest thing, especially for you guys, right? So we always sit down at the beginning of the year and we lay out, all right, what are our, we call them like green weeks and red weeks. A red week is like the Missouri Valley tournament, like that, or Reno TOC, or regionals, nationals, stuff like that. Those are our high priorities. Our green weeks are where we can add potentially a little more volume in. It's a lower volume week from a competition standpoint. So once I know both of those things, then I'm able to go in and I can lay out my workload left to right of, all right, do I need it to be a hard week on week 3 in this mesocycle, which is a mesocycle for people at home is anywhere between a 3 to a 6 week program for that season, if you will. Okay, so for example, for EOU's the last few seasons, we've had 5 mesocycles all the way through. They're all 4 weeks. Last year we did a little bit differently, but the first 2 stick with that. That's standard. And we did a 4-week mesocycle 5 times. We've isolated our red weeks. We need to taper for those weeks because we need to feel as good as possible. So what that means from a taper stand, like what does taper mean? We take away volume, not intensity. So I'm going to take away the extra conditioning. That's just extra volume that they don't need unless an athlete needs to feel like, some athletes need to do bike sprints to feel ready, right? Then do the bike sprints, right? That doing a 6x30 bike sprint 10 times is not going to put you in the dust, right? Doing that 10 times and then repeating it 10 more and then repeating it 10 more and then repeating it 10 more, that might put you in the dust. So let's not do that. But if we got to prime the system, we prime the system, right? And then after that, we focus on trying to take away, like, instead of doing 5 sets, for example, we'll do like 3 sets or 2 sets. Typically, I like to drop anywhere between 30 to 45% of the volume out when we're trying to taper. That's how I've found for the athletes in person I work with, and for you guys, I can get you guys feeling the best you can. Yeah. And then really at the end of the day, it comes down to, now that I know what your values are as a program, I know what kind of wrestlers you have there, because typically programs have similar wrestlers, right? Yeah. I know you guys are a little bit more grindy. Like you guys, like you said, like everybody can work hard, right? So I know that about you guys. So now, how do I highlight that? If that's our motto, if that's what we want to do and that's what we want to show, and those are the people I recruit in, how can I highlight that in our training and really maximize that? Because like something I talk about, and me and Alex have had it, it's called the Mario Kart theory. Yeah. When we're out of camp, I want to turn everybody into Mario, right? I want to give you the base level stats and make you good at everything. We're raising floors. When we're in camp or in season, it's not about raising floors. It's about making you as special as possible at what you do. It's about giving Hunter a little bit more of a gas tank to go after those shots that we were talking about. It's about giving Kyle the grip that this kid, he's grabbed my wrist, and I'm like, that's not my wrist anymore. That's your wrist. Like, it's highlighting what makes those people special. And typically when we can break it down, like, I like doing when I'm in person, making it as individual as possible. Yeah. But when we're working with a team, it's, okay, what are the specialties of that team? And then we try to isolate those and maximize those the best we can. And I guess that's a long answer that's how I go from the preseason all the way through the end. It's, all right, we get a little bit general at the beginning. We're still kind of in the Mario building phase. But right when we hit around, I would say late November, early December, that's when it starts going from, I'm not really lifting floors anymore. We're trying to drop the volume. We're trying to make those guys as special at what they do as possible and make them typically a little bit more explosive, and build that isometric strength up so that they can squeeze just a little bit longer.
Yeah.
Because that's, when I think of an EOU wrestler, they're hammers on top, and they're going to grind you down.
Yeah.
If I can get them to do that, and if I can highlight that in their strength and conditioning, then that's a winning recipe for everybody.
How do you add in the kids that are calling in saying this is their? Do you still keep them on the same taper or the same volume?
So I would, if they're calling in and saying like it, and that comes to the questions, right?
Yeah.
So I would do it on an individual basis, but it's really from the line of questioning I give. If it sounds like it's an overuse injury, not just I landed on my shoulder and now I have like an AC issue or an elbow issue or something like that. That's different than if it sounds like they're just being beaten to the dust.
Yeah.
So if it's an overuse issue, I'll give them an individual taper. Like I think I did it with 2 guys last year,
Yep.
where I gave them individual tapers on their own, just so that they could try to, because they were dealing with a lingering injury, and gave them a completely separate program. If it's a sharp injury, that's when I'm like, all right, we're just going to avoid that area. We're going to modify the program. They'll get their own program, but or I'll just say hey, if we're doing landmine press and they have a shoulder issue, we could try a landmine, we can try a dumbbell, and we can try maybe even an overhead press, like a Z press. If none of those work and they're all above a 3 out of 10 on a pain scale, we're just going to cut pressing.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, I'm not turning you into a power lifter. I'm not turning you into a bodybuilder. I'm turning you into a wrestler. And I care so much more that you step on the mat feeling a little bit better than the fact that you just did 4 sets of 6 with a landmine press. Because at the 24 reps of a landmine press in the grand scheme of things doesn't matter. It's when you accumulate them all, that's what matters. But if we need to take 1 day off, it's an equation of health to performance. We know high performance isn't healthy, but we want to make it as healthy as possible. Mm-hmm. And we never want our training to be at a detriment of that athlete. If we start doing things that start to flare up symptoms or there's a lingering injury in the area, we got to take that away. And that's where we just sometimes cut it or sometimes modify.
Yeah. Sweet.
Yeah.
What about your mobility? That's I love the mobility.
I know you
part
do.
of it. Our guys have got a lot more mobile, a lot more flexible, and at first it was tough for me to buy into.
For sure.
As a wrestler,
I
used to
grind.
Yeah,
Yep.
I would lift and run, and that's about it. But the stretching part and a little bit of yoga, things like that. We don't even really call it yoga; we just call it mobility, but it's yoga.
100%. So first of all, one of the coolest things that's ever happened to me as a healthcare provider and strength coach was when either you messaged me or Hunter messaged me. I don't remember which one.
Yeah.
But it was him finishing a shot while doing an oblique sit.
Oh yeah, yep, it was.
And
we messaged you. I can't remember.
I don't remember. I thought it was somebody. I don't think it was Hunter, but
yeah.
It was either you or him sent me the video, and they finished a shot off an oblique sit, and I'm like, oh, this is sick.
Yeah.
And why I do it and what I think allows me to at least, because you're right, it's hard to buy in as a wrestler.
Yeah.
It's something that it wasn't taught to me.
Yeah.
I was told to just grind and take more shots, right?
Yeah.
And that's the recipe for success. But I think the fact that I'm coming from the wrestling world allows me a little bit more credibility to be like, look, I've done it this way.
Yeah.
This way's cool. It'll get you good. But if we want to be great, we got to start thinking smarter, not harder, and that's where the mobility comes in. So for me, how I break down the mobility is, again, individual. I would isolate every variable they have. When I'm working with a team, it's, all right, I'm already making the lifts, so I know what they're going to be trying to get stronger. What potentially could be getting a little bit tighter? What potentially could be a limiting factor in them being successful in their lifts? And then I guess C, but the major one is in their sport, what are the mobility demands of the sport?
Yeah.
That's why those hip switches to shin boxes work so well. All that is a changeover into a knee slide, right?
Yeah.
That's basically what it is. And so if I can, or if you get sprawled upon and you get pushed back, I can shin box up, get through a shot, and drive into my double.
Yeah.
Right? That's where picking the right movement matters. Because everybody's, we need more hip mobility. Just like upper body press, there's a bajillion ways to do hip mobility. Which one does the athlete understand how to do when it comes to implementing in their sport? So that's why I would pick like a hip switch to shin box, which very similar to if I get sprawled upon, as opposed to like say a hip car.
Okay.
I like hip cars. They're great. They're a great warm up. But if I need them to do something as a prep before they get on the mat, I want to make it look like wrestling if I can, right? Because sport specificity isn't always the biggest thing, but I'm in the camp of I'm not going to make everything look like wrestling, but if I can get that athlete to understand why they're doing it and I can get the same result out of it, I'm going to pick the one that looks more like wrestling because that athlete can connect with it more. And so like for hips, for shoulders, for spine, and ankle, I would say those are the 4 biggest points that I try to hit in your mobility programs for EOU and then my fighters down here. And then with that, I try to just maximize the return with which we're trying to go after. Trying to maximize how they can get the most out of the mobility in the least amount of time. Because if I get somebody doing a 45-minute mobility session, I fucked up as a coach. Right? That's too much time. An athlete's life is busy. We could be doing other things that are going to maximize. But if I can get somebody to improve hip mobility, spine mobility, shoulder mobility, and ankle mobility in 15 minutes or less, I'm winning. And that athlete's winning, and that's what matters. So I guess the short answer is hip, shoulder, spine, and ankle, hitting those for about a 15-minute sequence, whether it's sets and reps or whether it's just a timer going. That's the most efficient way I've found at getting somebody to buy into mobility. Anything more than that, typically people feel like they're wasting their time. Anything less than about 6 minutes, they feel like they're not, like, why am I doing this? So it's that 6 to 15-minute mark where it's good enough to do something, but not enough for them to get bored. And I like mobility too. And I'm also in a weird spot where I'm freakishly mobile. So like all the videos I can send, I'm just doing them. Like I was just born, and you're just born that way sometimes. But like it's an ability of mine that's allowed me to be able to progress the mobility training, because like on Sundays I literally just try to do different new mobility stuff. Figure out, like in wrestling, like I'm going to get, adductor gets strained. All right, how can I mobilize that in that area and flow it into the other things we're doing? Because a lot of it is coming from flows, like that hip switch to shin box. Did we go to a lunge last year? So we can go, a hip switch is just a side to side. A shin box is when we come up on that front hip, so we're in a 90-90, we go up. And then we can pivot into a lunge, which is like I'm trying to take a corner on a sweep single. And then we can pivot all the way up to a squat, as if I got to get stable when somebody's trying to get on top of me, right? All of those different patterns, they make sense in a wrestler's brain, and there's something that I've been able to play with where I'm like, if we do a rotational lunge instead of a forward lunge, that's more similar to if I'm trying to cut a corner on a sweep single. And then I started doing that, and then I started to see wrestlers start to understand it more. Like I work with a few of the Valiant guys, they started to get it more. And that's, in my mind, the recipe to success in mobility drilling.
And that's what I liked about the app too, like we can just click on, what's he talking
Videos
about?
for everything.
What's the hip switch to shin height, or shin box, like, alright. Austin's on there showing us how to do it. And walking us through it.
That's what I was doing today. Me and Alex, we filmed 343 new videos like 6 months ago, and I'm finally just getting through. I got them all edited professionally, and I'm putting them all on the new app. EOU is going to be the first people that officially get the launched new app. They're going to get it a month or two ahead of everybody else. But we're out of beta, folks. For everybody that listens, I've had like 7 people message me, when's the app coming? This is the announcement. It's coming soon. And EOU is going to be the last people to test it, but really it's good to go right now, so I'm pumped. But in the app, so we have all of our own videos in the app, and honestly, I'm freaking pumped.
I am too,
It's the other thing too with the program and the Building Fighter Team program is the accountability factor. You said it's such a big thing. Having a built-in daily readiness, and how much did you sleep? What did you eat yesterday? How do you feel today? And having like a subjective and objective measure to be able to be like, this person's felt down in the dumps. Well, yeah, the last 6 days they've slept 4 hours. Oh, no shit. Why? Now I get it. That's going to help so much more to be able to keep the accountability factor of you don't need more work. You need more rest. And I'm pumped for that.
I am too.
That's the hardest thing to try to get to a college kid's brain. It's not always more. Sometimes it's less, and be more efficient.
It is. We had that conversation back in Ran 2 about, and it's not just running through a wall. Sometimes you got to find a way to sidestep and go around it.
Exactly.
Use that technique and get around it.
The door is way easier to get through than running through a wall. Let's look for the door.
Heck
yeah. Outside of that, dude, do you have any other questions about program?
Not about programming. Not this time. Yeah, I'm excited to get the app and start working with that.
Okay.
We started playing with it a little bit, going through it. There's a nutrition piece in there. There's the accountability piece. We talked about that too. Like we were gonna just get journals, and we'll still do journals, but we were gonna have them start writing everything in. But it's already in the app.
Yeah.
We won't have to do as much.
Good to go.
To that. Yeah.
Heck yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Dustyn, thanks for hopping on.
Yeah. It was awesome.
If you guys get in touch with him, what's a good email for them?
Yeah, email me at dazure, that's DAZURE, at eou.edu.
Heck yeah. So Azure at eou.edu.
eou.edu.
Shit, I got it wrong. I try to do it every time. All right, listen to him, not me, everybody. And then outside of that, dude, I appreciate you hopping on. I've been wanting to do this for a while.
Yeah.
And if you guys have any questions for me, if you want to learn more about the team program, because this is something we're trying to expand. So regular, like actual just wrestling teams, fight gyms, even athletic departments, we've built out the system well enough now to where I feel like we can expand to 10, 12, 15 teams in an athletic department because I've spent so much damn time trying to get this thing working perfectly. So I'm excited to launch that, and I'm excited that they are our flagship program because I wouldn't want to be paired up with anybody else. You guys have been absolutely killing it.
Appreciate it.
So if you guys got to get in touch with me, all the information is going to be in the show notes. That's going to be Instagram and emails. Look for our programs online. We got custom options, preset options, membership options, and then be on the lookout. We do have our courses coming out in early 2024. They're starting online, but we're going to do in-person courses probably 2025, midway through 2025. So be on the lookout for those. They're going to be fire. As always, it's Dr. Austin Schoen.
Dustyn Azure.
And we are